We're talking Canadian politics, folks, and the series of events that led to, well, let's just say, an unexpected resignation.
Unexpected, maybe to some.
Justin Trudeau stepping down.
Ah, right, yes.
So let's start with the bombshell, shall we? Donald Trump's proposal.
To annex Canada.
As the 51st state, this wasn't some offhand remark. This was a declaration at Mar-a-Lago.
It certainly sent shockwaves through, well, everywhere, really.
Now, we've got to lay the groundwork here. The Canada-U.S. relationship.
Historically, close ties, shared values, that whole friendly neighbor thing.
But Trump's annexation proposal, that's a curveball, right?
It's a departure, to say the least.
Now, Canada's reaction was pretty clear.
Oh, they didn't mince words.
Trudeau's response: not a snowball's chance in hell. He said Canada would never give up its sovereignty.
A very strategic response, I'd say. Not only did he shoot down the proposal, but, he appealed to that Canadian pride.
Unifying move.
Absolutely. It's like rallying the troops against a common enemy. Or perceived enemy in this case. I mean, this was all happening against a backdrop of, shall we say, rising discontent within Canada itself. Trudeau was already facing criticism, for things like his pandemic response, the economy, certain policies.
So it wasn't just pressure from the outside. Things weren't exactly rosy at home either.
Not exactly. It really was a combination of things, wasn't it? Internal and external pressures all coming together. And, Trump's rhetoric, especially that focus on economic benefits, it kind of tapped into some existing anxieties in Canada.
So the annexation proposal wasn't just political theater, right? There were real economic implications for Canada to consider.
Oh, absolutely.
What were some of the biggest concerns that came up?
Much more complicated. For Canada, one of the biggest worries was losing control.
Losing control of
their economic sovereignty. Merging with the U.S. economy would mean handing over the reins on key parts of their financial system.
Things like setting their own interest rates or how they spend their money.
Exactly. Fiscal and monetary policies. Basically, they'd be giving up control of their own financial destiny.
Yeah.
And, Canada's got this long history of social safety nets, universal health care, strong social programs, all funded and managed through policies tailored specifically to Canadians.
Right.
Integrating with the U.S. system, well, it could mean dismantling those programs, or at the very least, radically changing how they work.
So, beyond the economic worries, there's this deeper concern about losing those social programs, those things that are core to Canadian identity.
Oh, absolutely. Canadians are incredibly proud of their social safety net. The idea of losing it, that's a major source of anxiety. This isn't just about dollars and cents, right?
Right.
This is about national identity. Cultural heritage, what it means to be Canadian.
We've talked about economic anxieties and losing social programs, but there's also that fear of losing their unique cultural identity.
Absolutely. And that fear, it's especially strong among Indigenous communities in Canada. They've got real concerns about their rights, their treaties, their land claims, things that are recognized and protected under Canadian law. But under the U.S. system,
not so much.
Not so much. The U.S. hasn't exactly got a great track record when it comes to Indigenous rights. And in the middle of all this, the Conservative Party, led by Pierre Poilievre, started gaining some serious traction.
Poilievre. He's known for his populist rhetoric, his strong opposition to Trudeau's policies.
Right. He was tapping into this feeling of disillusionment, especially among those who felt left behind by Trudeau's economic policies or alienated by his progressive social agenda.
So with the political landscape shifting, the Conservatives on the rise, the upcoming elections were looking like a major turning point for Canada.
Absolutely. Those elections would decide not just the direction of domestic policy, but also Canada's relationship with the United States, a relationship that had been, well, let's say significantly strained by recent events.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts? What should our listeners be watching for as this story continues to unfold?
Well, I think the upcoming elections are going to be critical. Will Canadians choose a leader who takes a harder line with the U.S., or will they go for someone who tries to rebuild that relationship?
It's a tough choice. On one hand, you want to stand up to a bully, but Canada and the U.S. are so interconnected. Severing ties completely, that would have huge consequences for both sides.
It's a delicate balance to strike. And the outcome, it'll have repercussions far beyond Canada's borders.